Okay, let's talk about Real Housewives of New York because there's a little bit of beef that's going on top of some news from the not Ultimate Girls, from Legacy. So Liam, Eboni K. Williams, not Leah. Eboni K. Williams is coming for Leah in a new Newsweek article that was published last week. So it was titled, "I Refuse to Be the Black Sidekick on Real Housewives of New York." And it was basically an excerpt from her new book that's coming out. So Eboni has a new book that she wrote, and I guess she reflects on her time from Real Housewives. And in it, let's get into what she actually shared from the excerpt that's to be published in the book, right? So this isn't a new article that she wrote. It's a piece of her book. So she says that she didn't originally see herself being a good fit for the show, for Real Housewives, because she just didn't see herself as somebody that was a right fit for reality TV. But then they came to her and she decided to take the meeting because they told her that they were interested in casting the first African-American housewife on New York, which, I think it was time for. New York is a melting pot. It's multicultural. And I think there was obviously room to bring in people of other cultures to just kind of reflect what New York actually is. And I think where the culture is today compared to where Housewives started, what was it, 15, 16, 17 years ago? She said that when she was selected that she was ecstatic about it. And she remembers right before filming, she had dinner with two of the producers and Leah McSweeney was there. She says that Leah was coming off of a great first season. And she says that Leah was seeking dominance in season 13, which would have been Leah's second season. And she says that she suspects that Leah wanted to make Eboni her sidekick so that Leah could continue to be the fan favorite. But being the black sidekick was not of interest to Eboni, which I thought was kind of a strange thing to say, right? Because I didn't read it as that's what Eboni or as that's what Leah was trying to do. If anything, I felt like based off of my reflection of that season, I felt like Leah was one of the few that was actually trying to get Eboni to fit in with the other women because Leah was a lot younger. Leah was a lot newer. I think the OG ladies were always kind of rougher to the new girls. Anytime somebody new came onto the scene, they were a little mean girlish. They made them work to fit into the group, right? Kristen was not easily embraced. Heather was not easily embraced. Carol, I feel like kind of struggled to fit, but at least she had Carol and Heather together kind of, fit in. Aviva did not fit in. Kelly Ben-Simone did not really fit in. Anytime there was a new girl in the mix, the OGs were very clear. Jules was definitely not in the mix. I think Dorinda was only able to fit in so organically because she had so much history with Sonia and Ramona. And she knew Luann, and she'd been around in the earlier seasons of New York. So I find it kind of interesting that Eboni is throwing this out at Leah now, especially because we haven't seen Leah speak poorly about Eboni. We've seen, Luann definitely seems clear that she has zero interest in having a relationship with Eboni now, even though it seems like Luann tried to have a relationship with her. Ramona seems to have no interest in it. But I really thought that Leah and Eboni had a genuine friendship and a bond that they felt together on the show, at least from what we saw. And I don't think Leah had any ulterior motive in trying to befriend Eboni other than being, you're the new kid on the block. Let me, let me embrace you and give you, a seat next to me here at the table because I am one of the fan favorites. I am kind of the new girl. I know what you're going through because I went through it last year. Maybe not entirely because obviously there was going to be a higher expectation on Eboni than there was Leah. But I feel like Eboni and Leah definitely struggled to fit in with the ladies. One, because like I said, they had that mean girl sort of energy where like, we're going to make you earn your spot on New York because we've given this show our blood, sweat, and tears. But I think I didn't see any ill will from Leah welcoming Eboni on the show. So I find this kind of interesting, and it feels a little calculated considering she's doing a book promo, right? She released this specific excerpt to Newsweek to promote her book. It's a whole book, right? So there are multiple different excerpts that Eboni could have given to Newsweek to publish, and she chose this one probably because she knew that it was going to stir up some shit, okay? But she also speaks about Sonia Morgan in it, and she says, Sonia Morgan was the only cast veteran that verbally and practically expressed the need for other women to make space for me and we are still close. I don't believe that Sonia and Eboni are still close. I also don't believe that Sonia was a real ally to Eboni on the show. I think Leah was a stronger ally than Sonia was. I think Sonia was just like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to ruffle feathers. I'm just going to do exactly what Eboni wants and do exactly what Eboni says and let Eboni rule this and just not question anything, which is I think kind of what Eboni wanted. And listen, I think Ramona could have been a little better, or a lot better. I think Luann could have been a little better. I just think, they struggled. There was no chemistry between these women, so they struggled to kind of mesh in the beginning. But I don't think that Sonia was ever genuinely Eboni's friend. I think Sonia just didn't want to get canceled and was a little too savvy to be like, I'm not going to play this card that Ramona's playing by being like, I just want to have fun. She's like, no, I need to read the room and give Eboni, a little space to introduce us to the culture that she wants to expose us to, and the audience as well. And obviously Ramona and Luann felt like it was a little luxury, and even the audience did as well. And Eboni talks about that because she says that, after she joined the show, the critics and the fans and everybody considered the show boring, and they thought that she was lecturing. And she's like, I don't care. I was determined to take up space, and I was not going to fall into the basic reality TV tropes. And then she kind of comes hard at Brian Moylan, who's the one that wrote The Housewives, the book The Housewives, not Dave Quinn's book, Not All Diamonds and Rosé, but Brian Moylan, who writes for Vulture, because she refers to a Vulture critic who's written about Housewives before, and then he called her boring, and she was not happy about that, and she was just not going to conform to the reality TV tropes that he expected her, that the fans and the critics expected her to immediately fall to. But I'm just like, I just feel like she wasn't, and it seems like she admits this in this excerpt as well, that she just wasn't a fit for reality TV. Like, that's just not her medium. The View was a great fit for her, and I know she was lobbying for a spot on The View. I think that was a great place for her to be in, because she is more politically savvy than some of the other women on this show. We've seen some of the other women, like Carol, try to bring politics into Housewives. And listen, not that there's not a space for it, and not that that's not real life, and not that those aren't opportunities for us to kind of gain exposure through that. But I also think Real Housewives of New York is these women getting drunk in Mexico and falling into bushes and taking their tits out and chugging margaritas and jumping into the pool skinny dipping naked. Like, that's just kind of like, you can't expect there to be such a big jolt in a shift in the programming and then expect people to just embrace that so openly. I just don't think that it was necessarily the right fit. And there were obviously multiple challenges that came with production that season. Obviously, being in a pandemic and having filming restrictions. I think there were a lot of things that prevented that season from being great. But I don't think Eboni was necessarily a great fit for Real Housewives of New York. And that's nothing against her personally. I wouldn't necessarily be great for, I wouldn't be great to take over for Anderson Cooper. That doesn't mean that I'm not a great person. I don't think Anderson Cooper would be great hosting a pop culture reality TV podcast. We just all have our strengths, and I think when we stick to our strengths, we're really able to shine. And that's not to say that somebody's incapable of doing something. It's just we should really align people to platforms and positions where we can really see them shine. And I don't think we were really able to see Eboni shine on Real Housewives of New York because, again, she just wasn't a fit for what the audience was already used to seeing. That's not, a race comment, but more of just like a personality type comment, right? I think we're used to these women being silly and ridiculous and outlandish and drunk and Dorindas and Ramonas shitting on the floor. And like, that's just what Housewives was. And I think Eboni's class is a little higher than that. A few tiers above shitting on the floor reality TV. So I get that she just wasn't the right fit. But it's also odd because she acknowledges that she wasn't a fit for reality TV. But then on Watch What Happens Live recently, she also said that she wanted to do a season of Ultimate Girls Trip with one season wonders, which, first of all, nobody wants to fucking see that. But in terms of, her legacy on Real Housewives of New York, she says that she was the most impactful one-season housewife in Bravo history. I don't know if that's necessarily a flex, but in reaction to Eboni's Newsweek excerpt or release for her book, listen, I get it. It's a smart strategy. You have a book that you're trying to sell. You have a book that you're trying to promote. So obviously you're going to leak a scandalous excerpt from the book where you're dragging somebody else so that all the housewives blogs will pick it up, and here we are talking about it here. So it was a smart strategy. But from what I've heard, the ladies are not too thrilled by it. It looks like from the people that I've spoken to, it sounds like Leah's really hurt and shocked over all of it. She thought that she was actually a real friend to Eboni. So it's weird that Eboni just kind of threw her under the bus. Again, my interpretation was that it felt like their friendship was genuine. I feel like we had a lot of really endearing moments with them, but I can understand why Leah may be hurt or shocked or even kind of frustrated by any of this. I feel like she was really there for Eboni way more than Sonia was there for Eboni. Sonia, I don't feel like was a support system for Eboni or a friend to Eboni as much as I think Sonia was just like, I'm just not going to ruffle feathers. I'm just going to let Eboni do whatever Eboni wants to do, and I'm not going to have an opinion, and I'm not going to have a say, and I'm just going to, be a yes man to Eboni. That's what Sonia felt like. Sonia was a yes man to Eboni, and maybe that's what Eboni wanted, and maybe that's what Eboni was seeking. I don't know. But I also don't feel like Leah did anything necessarily bad to Eboni. I don't know. I don't feel like she did anything negative to her. She hasn't even said anything negative in the press. She didn't even talk about her in her own book. Leah wrote a book and didn't slam any of the women in that book. I would understand if Leah came out and dragged Ramona, but I also feel like she thinks that the beef with Ramona is kind of old news at this point. The people wouldn't really care what she has to say about Ramona because they've already gone back and forth. The Leah part of it was just kind of strange. But from what I've heard, it sounds like all the women are kind of just like over it. They're ready to move on. Sonia and Lou have their reality show, their like simple lifestyle reality show that's supposed to be coming later this summer. I believe it's coming on Peacock. So we have that to look forward to because they also just teased that after Eboni released her Newsweek article. So sounds like they're not that bothered by it. Leah, from what we've seen, I think she's booked a few film roles, so she seems to be good. I know the book was received really well. She doesn't really seem to be leaning into any of the Bravo stuff in any of her press for the book. So it seems like she's kind of ready to move on from Bravo land. We have Ultimate Girlship Season 3. I chatted with Marisol Patton on the Ringer Reality TV podcast, and Marisol said that should be coming very soon. So I'm assuming we're probably going to get a trailer come March for Ultimate Girlship Season 3, and then I would assume that it'll probably air, if not at the end of March, then definitely in April as we get an end to Real Housewives of Miami. So we'll see. The New York ladies seem to be doing fine. Luann has her cabaret. That seems to be going strong. Ramona looks like she's living her best life. She's just traveling all over. So she seems to be fine. Everyone seems to be in a solid place. But let's talk about Real Housewives of New York Legacy, okay? Because there's a rumor that the reason the show isn't moving forward or is currently on pause is because negotiations for money stalled. I guess the women were asking for more money. Now the reports of what they were being offered have come out. These are all just rumored, but it looks like Luann got the highest offer for Real Houses of New York Legacy, but she was only offered $60,000 for the entire season. Entire season, $60,000. Sonia was apparently offered $50,000. I would assume Dorinda was also offered around $50,000 as well. And then the lowest offer that came in was for Jill Zarin, and Jill Zarin was only offered $15,000, 1-5. So Luann was offered the highest at 60, and then Jill was offered the lowest at 15. So I could understand why the ladies were like, yeah, no, we're not doing the show for that type of money, which is kind of weird though, because the show obviously comes with a lot more exposure. Like you gain a lot more than just the money. It does feel like a really lowball offer. Some people are like, that's the salary that they were offering. Who's going to live off of that in New York? And I'm like, first of all, this isn't a full year, full-time salary. This is just a one-time project. I didn't think that it was going to be like a full 20 episode season like we were getting with New York. I was expecting it to be like a 4 or 5, maybe 6 episode series, kind of just like reflecting on where their lives are now. I don't even think there was a real concept for what Legacy was supposed to be. So I think to the network, they're probably like, yeah, it's going to be like a little reunion special. It's not going to be like a mega series that's going to have multiple seasons from here on out, but it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. I mean, I get that these numbers are lowball offers, but I'm also like, well, you don't have a job. I mean, you don't have television time anyway. So I mean, I understand Jill not wanting to do it for $15,000. I would be fucking insulted. I'd be like, no, you pay me the $60,000 that you're offering Luann, or no deal. And you need Jill Zarin. Like, what? You can't have a legacy show without Jill Zarin. I think people were expecting it to be like a continuation of the original RHONY. We were never going to get that. I always thought this was going to be some sort of like reunion special type of series. It was going to be like a mini series, right? Like 4 episodes, I think would have been perfect. 5 or 6 max. Take them on vacation, let them reflect. Similar to like Ultimate Girls Trip, right? We take them into a new setting. We have them reflect on their time on their show, break the fourth wall a bit. I think that that's fun and interesting. And I think that would have been great to get them together to reflect on the legacy that they left from the, 12 seasons 13 seasons that they gave us on Bravo. I thought that would have been a perfect way to kind of wrap it all up, tie a nice little bow on it, and sail off into the sunset. Obviously, it doesn't look like that's happening. But we don't know the details of the contract, right? We don't know what the expectations were. We don't know how many scenes they were going to have to film. We don't know how long production was going to be. So, but it did seem like from some of the rumors that most of the women were willing to sign their contract and move forward. And Jill Zarin was the only one that was kind of stalling contract negotiations. But again, if they were only offering her $15,000, I think $15,000 is a bit of an insult, if you ask me. Like, pay her what you're paying the rest. Even if it's a little bit lower, right? If Sonya's getting 50, at least offer Jill 40 to 50. Jill would do it regardless, but she shouldn't do it. She should have some self-respect and not take a $15,000 offer if the other women are making that much more. Because that's just nutsos. That's crazy.